do you like the brackets, or are there any issues with the brackets in your mind, Seth?
Yeah. I mean, allowing that these committee folks spend a lot more time on this than I do. I said during the selection show, I don't see any justification, frankly, for putting Houston over Kansas in the overall seed line. I'm not sure, because people actually have normal lives and they don't live this like I do, but I'm not sure how many people know. They actually seed the entire field 1 through 68. And people think there's an S curve where, you're matching up seeds in that way. But it's all determined by geography. So if you are Kansas and you are the number 2 overall seed, you get to go to the Midwest Regional, which is being decided in Kansas City. So now Houston is going there, and Kansas is being sent out west. I mean, Kansas had twice the number of quad 1 wins, and the hardest strength of schedule in the whole country. Houston was 96, and Houston had a bad loss to Temple. So, I mean, Houston's good, clearly deserved to be a 1 seed, but that was really the one thing that jumped out at me. Everything else, like, if you're a bubble team, I know Rutgers fans are bummed, and Oklahoma State, what have you, but if you've played your way onto the bubble, then you really have nothing to complain about at this point.
Well, I mean, if you're a Rutgers fan, you just root for Fairleigh Dickinson in the first 4, right, Seth?
Jersey.
Come on now. I mean, it's not like Jersey got completely shut out here. And then there's Princeton. I don't know why. Maybe it's my old school backdoor Pete Carroll type guy, But I see Princeton versus Arizona, and I just start to wonder to myself, is that an upset? Start identifying some of the shockers, the slipper fits type moments that we're going to see on Thursday and Friday of this week.
So just some nerdy numbers for you. 6 of the last 10 years, a 15 has defeated a 2. So if you pick a 15 over a 2, then ostensibly you have a 60% chance of winning, at least one of them. So. Arizona, they're the last number 2 seed, so that might be where you look. They've got an injury issue with their point guard. They played UCLA in the Pac-12 final, and UCLA had 2 guys out, one of whom was not coming back, and Arizona still only beat them by 2. So that was a little bit surprising to me. But, staying in that bracket, Rich, the 2 teams I like there in the South are Charleston and Furman. Virginia's another one with an injury issue. Charleston, at one point was ranked in the top 25. I think they're very underseeded at a 12, and I love the way they match up with San Diego State. So those are 2 to jump on. I actually have UCSB. Baylor's been vulnerable, and then Florida Atlantic to me is an interesting team, which also won a ton of games. Has also been ranked in the top 25. They play a lot of players. So that one comes to mind. And the other 2 I'll give you, I really like VCU over St. Mary's. VCU had a great home stretch last month and a half of the season, won the A-10 tournament. Terrific defensive team, as is St. Mary's. So that's why I think it's a good matchup. And, of course, we got to love the Drake, which is one of the oldest teams in the country and a really good bucket getter. And Tucker DeVries, the Missouri Valley, has a great history, and they were the best team. They won their conference championship game by 26 points. So I've got them actually beating Indiana in the second round to go to the Sweet 16.
How about that? Man.
But I'll tell you this, Rich.
Yes, sir.
All these teams from 11 to 14, they can all play. I'm telling you, they can all play.
That's what Absolutely. I guess. Yeah, and I guess that's what we've seen over the last couple of years. And I'm just wondering, why, or if it's now a deeper pool, or we never talk about college basketball when it comes to NIL, Seth. We always focus on the college football world, but I'm wondering if we might see a time, and this year could be it, if we just see more of the upsets from the double-digit seeds because they get 1 or 2 or 3 kids that are terrific that we might hear about, say, heaven forbid, in a June draft in the NBA, that they're going to the smaller schools, and now suddenly there's parity, if you will, for an NCAA tournament?
Yeah, it's a great point, but I think it's been happening for a long time. I mean, I think if you look back really over those last 20 years, starting with the George Mason going to the Final Four, the very first year we had the first 4. I want to say it was 2012, maybe 2014.
Mm-hmm.
The very first year from the first 4, VCU was in it. They went all the way to the Final Four, and then UCLA did that in 21. So in 9 years, we've had 2 teams go from the first 4 to the Final Four. So you're talking about the last teams in the field. Florida Gulf Coast was the first to reach a Sweet 16. St. Peter's last year was the first 15 seed to reach an Elite Eight. So, Wichita State, Butler. So it's been happening for quite some time. One thing that is happening, though, because you mentioned NIL, between the NIL and the transfer portal, where kids can now switch schools and not have to sit out. And the other thing, Rich, is the COVID years. Everybody got an extra eligibility, so we've got like 60-year seniors on some of these teams. So college basketball is definitely older than it's ever been until this COVID thing cycles out, and I think that's kind of what I look for, not only experience but also continuity, who's retaining players over a couple of years, and oftentimes it is the mid-majors who are able to do that a little bit more easily.
Catch the Rich Eisen Show every single day on the Roku channel, 12 to 3 Eastern, for free.